The mum and her boyfriend guilty of the death of little Lola James. The 2-year-old was brutally attacked and murdered by Kyle Bevan, described as having a Jekyll and Hyde temper. Her mum was found guilty of allowing her death. Also this lunchtime, police on high alert in New York, with Donald Trump now just hours away from being arrested.
I'm live in New York, where Donald Trump is preparing for an historic day in court.
Most wet wipes could be banned in the latest plan to clean up the UK's water supply. Allowing underage kids to use its app lands TikTok a huge fine from the regulator. And music recovered from the bottom of the sea and getting a new lease of life 50 years on.
This is the ITV Lunchtime News with Charlene White.
Good afternoon. In the last hour, a mum and her boyfriend have been found guilty of murdering a 2-year-old girl in West Wales. Lola James died from brain injuries 4 days after being pushed down the stairs in her home. Sinead James was asleep when her partner viciously assaulted her daughter, but the prosecution said she failed to protect Lola, prioritising her relationship instead. This report from Sangeeta Lal contains distressing details of that attack.
She was described in court as a beautiful and busy little girl, but Lola James was attacked by those meant to protect her. Her mother's partner, Kyle Bevan, has been convicted of her murder, and her mother, Sinead James, has been found guilty of causing or allowing her death.
OK, is the patient awake?
No, she's not.
The child's mother claimed in court that Bevan told her Lola was barged by their dog and fell down the stairs of their home in Haverfordwest, which she told the police.
How far did she fall?
From the top of the stairs down to the bottom.
OK. What caused the fall?
This bloody dog that I had it barged there and she just fell.
OK.
It probably weighs more than a little one. So
that's what I mean, she took a fly on that.
Bevan continued that lie, but the jury heard that he'd Googled, "My 2-year-old child has just taken a bang to the head," an hour before he phoned for an ambulance. The court heard the couple had met in February 2020 and Bevan moved into James's home a month later, where they both took drugs. It was in the property that officers found a vomit and blood-stained onesie, and investigators noted that the bath was spotlessly clean, despite the rest of the house being filthy, evidence, according to the prosecution, that Lola had been scrubbed clean. She suffered a catastrophic head injury and had 101 external injuries at the time she died. Her home was where Lola should have felt most safe. Instead, it was where she was in the most danger.
Well, Sangeeta is at Swansea Crown Court for this lunchtime, as you can see. And Sangeeta, tributes have been paid to Lola outside court, haven't they?
Yeah, so just after court proceedings, Lola James's biological father, Daniel Thomas, provided a statement which was read out by a police officer where he essentially shared a message to his late daughter. He said, "The outcome here will never stop the hurt you felt or the hurt that lives inside of me. It's been a long time coming to see justice." Now, it took the jury just over 10 hours to reach a unanimous verdict after a 4-week trial, and when the jury read out their guilty verdicts for both defendants, Sinead James and Kyle Bevan, Sinead James brought both of her hands to her face and cried into her hands. She looked over to her family while the judge spoke to the jury, where he thanked them for their work and said that no doubt this case has been more difficult than many others.
OK, Sangeeta, thanks very much. Next, when Donald Trump walks into a New York courthouse later, he'll be the first US president to face criminal proceedings. It's all related to hush money that he's accused of paying to an adult film star just days before the 2016 presidential election, which he, of course, went on to win. Well, these are live pictures now from outside court, where Mr. Trump will arrive later on today. But let's talk to our US correspondent, Dan Rivers, who's outside Trump Tower, where he's due to leave. This is quite a day in American politics, isn't it, Dan?
It really is, yeah. Donald Trump spent the night in his penthouse apartment in Trump Tower behind me here. Last night, we're told, he met not only his legal team, but also his political team. The two fates now inextricably intertwined as he prepares for this historic day in court.
In a few hours, Donald Trump will break all precedent, facing a criminal court for the first time in his life, and for a president, the first time in history. The brief wave as he entered Trump Tower yesterday was designed perhaps to give the impression of confidence, but there is no denying the seriousness of this day.
There we go, runway 22.
His journey from Florida to New York was covered extensively by US networks, the branding and the airtime, no doubt delighting his campaign managers.
I believe the former president's leaving the airplane right now.
Who've been boasting about the millions of dollars he's raised since news of the indictment broke last week. His son Eric accompanied him on the journey, tweeting out this photo.
So this is nothing new to all of us.
His wife, Lara, telling me how the family view the case.
For us in the family, we have been used to fight after fight after fight. And this one is no different. I have full confidence that, my father-in-law will prevail. And I actually think that a lot of people realize what is going on here. People who didn't even vote for Donald Trump in the previous two elections have woken up and said, wait a minute, if they can do this to Donald Trump, what could they do to me?
Donald Trump will be driven from Trump Tower on 5th Avenue to the courthouse in Lower Manhattan, a journey of approximately 6 miles. He's due in court at 2:15 local time, 7:15 p.m. British time. He'll be required to surrender to the district attorney just before the hearing, when he'll be processed, having his mugshot taken and fingerprints scanned. The hearing will last just a few minutes, and then Donald Trump is expected to travel straight back to his estate at Mar-a-Lago, Florida.
Stormy, I love you, Stormy.
The case is expected to centre around alleged hush money payments to the adult film actress Stormy Daniels to cover up their brief affair. When the indictment is unsealed, more details will be revealed about precisely which laws Donald Trump is accused of breaking. One of Donald Trump's most ardent supporters, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, has organised a pro-Trump rally in the shadow of the court. Security will be extremely tight, amid warnings from New York's mayor that protesters must behave themselves. Already Trump Tower resembles a circus, a chaotic mix of police, media and those seeking the spotlight. Tomorrow, as the main event unfolds, expect more of these scenes. And at the centre of the whole spectacle, a man who defies all political orthodoxy. What should be a moment of shame, somehow transformed into pure political theatre.
Well, in a few hours' time, less than 6 hours, Donald Trump will be in court, so he'll be leaving Trump Tower soon. New details emerging. Apparently, he is going to speak to cameras, TV cameras, in the hallways of the court, both before and after this hearing. There won't be any TV cameras covering the proceedings as it happens, that 15-minute hearing, but there will be stills photographers taking photos inside the courtroom, so a lot more detail to emerge later today.
OK, Dan, thanks very much for that. Social media company TikTok has been fined almost £13 million because of its handling of underage users. The fine from the Information Commissioner is down to data breaches, including handling personal data of under 13s without parental consent. Well, Sejal Karia has joined us in the studio. And this fine is huge, but they did dodge an even bigger one, didn't they?
Yes, originally TikTok was set to be fined £27 million, but the regulator decided not to pursue another separate breach. Nevertheless, £12.7 million is still a huge fine. With 1 billion users worldwide, TikTok, it seems, has suffered setback after setback in recent weeks. Australia now joining the UK, Australia, New Zealand and other countries in issuing either a partial or a whole ban. Now, this particular fine relates to the fact that more than 1 million children under 13 in the UK were on the app in breach of TikTok's own rules. Those rules say no one under 13 can create a TikTok account, let alone be on the platform. Now, you have to use personal data to create that account, things like your phone number or your date of birth. The regulator said that TikTok didn't do enough to check who was using their app and take sufficient action to remove children who were underage. Besides that, personal data, they said, was used and processed by the company without parental consent. This is what the Information Commissioner
estimate that about 1.4 million children were allowed to open accounts unlawfully. And it's important that the law deters that kind of behaviour, because you can get people ignoring the laws, building up a platform, and then others who are complying with the law get a competitive disadvantage.
Now, TikTok has said that it's invested heavily to stop under-13s accessing the site. In a statement, they say that they disagree with the decision and they're considering next steps.
OK, Sej, thanks very much. Boxer Amir Khan has been banned from all sport for 2 years after testing positive for an illegal bodybuilding drug. The former Olympic champion was found to have the performance-enhancing drug in his system following his comeback fight last year, but he says it wasn't intentional. Neil Connery has the story.
This was Amir Khan's fight against Kell Brook in February last year. Khan tested positive for ostarine, a drug designed to have similar effects to testosterone. The tribunal ruled out deliberate or reckless conduct. Khan accepted he broke the rules, but said it was not intentional. In a statement, UK anti-doping said this case serves as a reminder that UKAD will diligently pursue anti-doping rule violations in order to protect clean sport. Strict liability means athletes are ultimately responsible for what they ingest and for the presence of any prohibited substances in a sample. The announcement of Khan's ban followed his appearance on Good Morning Britain earlier, when he revealed the impact of a gunpoint robbery last year, where he was robbed of a £72,000 watch.
Your life just goes right past you. At first, I didn't know what they wanted. It's till when they ran to me, I remember someone pushing me to the car and just put a gun straight to my face and says, he didn't say anything, and I was in shock. I had to look away.
Khan won a silver medal at the 2004 Athens Olympics when he was 17. He turned professional in 2005 and 4 years later became world champion.
It's sad if Amir's gone through the proceedings and given his B sample and had the hearing, and as a result of it that he is banned. It's not a very glorious end to his fine career.
Boxing means everything to me, you know.
Khan's appeared on his own reality show, Meet the Khans, as well as I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. He retired from boxing 3 months after he lost to Kell Brook. Following today's news, he insists he's never cheated and never would. Neil Connery, ITV News.
Ministers are considering a ban on wet wipes made with plastic. It's one of the ways they're trying to stop the continued pollution of our drinking water. After centuries of neglect, not one waterway in England is considered clean. But how much of a difference could it make? Well, our science correspondent Martin Stew is at the River Wandle in South London. Martin.
Well, it looks quite nice, doesn't it? But I wouldn't fancy swimming in it. And as you say, no surprise, really, because every single river and waterway in England isn't officially designated as clean. No surprise, then, the government and water companies have received a fair bit of flack. And today, the government announced what it plans to do. The most headline-catching, that consultation on banning wet wipes that include plastic. Why wet wipes? Well, I've been down the sewers myself previously, actually, to have a look at part of the problem. The plastic in them doesn't break down for years and years, and they act to stick together all the fat and grease and other unmentionable things in sewers to create what are called fatbergs. They set like concrete, they cost millions to clear, and they can allow sewage to back into rivers. Also, the wet wipes can get into the rivers, small bits of plastic into the fish too. Now, critics say that this has actually been proposed since 2018. This is the third time it's been rolled out, but the government says this time they mean business.
Well, there's been a call for evidence in the past where the government has considered it, and we've already seen some retailers like Boots and Tesco's already stop selling those wet wipes that have plastic in them. Now we're just going to complete it and just ban plastic from wet wipes for good.
Now, that ban is likely to come in next year. Some other things that are being considered are a potential ban of some chemicals within farming that often run into the rivers, more water meters for customers, and also, and I think this is probably the biggest one, unlimited fines for water companies that release too much sewage into the sea and river. A reminder that 825 times every single day, sewage is being discharged into our rivers and the sea. And it's with that in mind that some campaigners say even today's announcements probably still aren't going far enough.
All right, Martin, thanks very much. London City airports scrapped the rule banning passengers from carrying liquids and electronic items in their hand luggage. That follows successful trials there and at Teesside Airport as well. New 3D scanners should make life a lot simpler for security staff and travellers. Well, Ian Woods is at London City Airport for us now. Ian, can you talk us through how it will work?
Well, that's top secret. They wouldn't let us to show that, but the 3D scanning technology has been around for some years now. It's been trialled at various airports around the UK, but this is the first major hub to have it fully operational. Now, other larger airports, which have got more security lanes, this one's only got 4, will take longer to change all their scanners, and they've been given by the government until June of next year for that to happen. But what it means is that you no longer have to take electronic items out of your hand luggage and also liquids, and you're no longer restricted to 100 millilitres. Now, 4 million passengers should go through London City Airport this year, and they should find the process an awful lot quicker.
Makes a massive difference to us. We can now get 30% more passengers through in an hour than we could do previously. So huge improvement from a processing time and then also from a passenger experience.
The other thing you'd notice is that it's a lot quieter here. You don't have security staff shouting at you every 15 seconds with the do's and don'ts of take off your shoes and do this and do that. And you can understand that it's very popular with passengers.
They're much better, just much easier to get through, especially with a young baby.
So the security was pretty good, everything went pretty fast.
I think I liked it because you didn't have to take off your shoes and like what we're used to, and you don't have to take out any liquids.
But a word of warning, don't get rid of these just yet. The clear plastic bags and the miniature toiletries will still be around for a while, because the chances are, even if you fly out from here and don't need to take these out of your hand luggage, the return airport won't have this technology in place yet, so you will still face the same restrictions. Remember, they've been in place since 2006, and there were suspicions that there were plots to try to put explosives into liquids, and that's why the ban was introduced then. But it will happen in time, but give it time.
All right, Ian, thanks for talking us through that. Care charities have criticised the government after it held back on its financial commitment to reform social care. After £1 billion of funding for staff development was promised back in 2021, today the Department for Health and Social Care only announced half the amount initially pledged, raising questions about when the remaining money would materialise. The government insists the money will still be used for other care needs, but industry leaders say they need the full funding now to deal with the staffing shortage. Finland's set to officially become a member of NATO. The country shares a border with Russia and applied to join in the wake of Putin's invasion of Ukraine. Russia has reacted to the announcement by saying it will strengthen its defences near the border if NATO deploys any additional troops. Vinyl records stuck at the bottom of the sea for nearly 50 years have been recovered, restored and are playing music again. They were discovered on a Second World War submarine sunk off the coast of Denmark back in 1945. And despite being submerged 220 feet underwater, the discs were preserved, as Sharon Thomas reports.
What you're hearing hasn't been heard on dry land since the Second World War. Songs stuck under the sea for decades. The wreckage of this German submarine, one of only 2 to survive, giving up its remarkable secrets.
This is Johann Strauss.
U-boat 534 was sunk off the coast of Denmark in 1945 at the end of the war. It was salvaged in 1993 and brought to Birkenhead on Merseyside in 1996 as a museum ship. Now records, actual vinyl found on board have been cleaned up. Incredibly, they endured for all that time in more than 200 feet of water to still play today.
It's the emotive aspect of it. It makes you imagine sitting in this horrible, cold, dark or boiling hot submarine. Not a pleasant place to be, and this was one of the few things that gave him comfort, and it's a really powerful feeling. The guys in them were still just young fellas. The captain was 29 years old. They were a long way from home. They were homesick. So this kind of stuff, you know, classical music, they had some like pop music, the equivalent of our Vera Lynn, that kind of thing. And it gave them something to listen to, something to connect them to their home.
The records are now being played at a museum in Liverpool, the headquarters of the Battle of the Atlantic during Britain's darkest hours.
This building was designed to kind of hunt, track and kill U-boats. It was kind of still a hairs on the back of your neck moment, knowing that they've been at the bottom of the sea for 50 years and also knowing symbolically that, you know, these were records belonging to the enemy and now playing in the headquarters of the other side. You know, it's an unusual set of circumstances.
It's believed to be the first time records found in a shipwreck have been played years later and still work. That's the power of music for you. Sharon Thomas, ITV News.
What an incredible find. OK, finally this lunchtime, new stamps featuring King Charles for the first time will go on sale later. The new design features the King's head, which is without a crown and is being sold on the Royal Mail's website. But they're unlikely to be in regular circulation for a while yet, until the existing stamps featuring Her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth runs out. That's it from us this lunchtime. Lucrezia will be here with the evening news at 6:30. The News Where You Are follows the national weather. But from everybody here this lunchtime, enjoy your afternoon. Bye-bye.